All right, and welcome back to the Performance Physical Therapy Injury Report. It is Monday, February 1st. Tomorrow is Groundhog Day. And I am joined, as always, by Dr. Mark Casimiro. What's going on, Mark?
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Happy Monday. Tomorrow's Groundhog Day. Hopefully, Phil, the groundhog, doesn't see a shadow or does see a shadow. I forget which is which now.
I feel like this past year, I feel like we've been living in Groundhog Day.
It's true.
And over, but there is a light at the end of a tunnel. One would say brighter days are on the way.
I like it.
It's a little plug for our little live Thursday segment
nice.
that we're going to be doing, Brighter Days Through Better Movement, 1 o'clock Thursdays for the next 20 weeks as we race to the summer solstice and the longest day of the year. What will you do with 2 extra minutes of sunlight a day? That's almost 15 minutes extra sunlight a week. So tune in on Thursday, starting this Thursday when we have special guest Dr. Brian Hay. All right, Mark, let's jump right in. I already got our shameless plugs out of the way. We
nice.
Yeah,
that's my Brian Hay impersonation. Nice.
Spot on. I think I'll see that. We'll see him say nice a few times on Thursday. I am sure, and hope he's watching right now. And if he is watching, or any of you are watching out there, say hello to the comments and let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you have any questions, and Dr. Mark and I will answer those for you. Well, Dr. Mark will answer them for you. I'll ask them. I leave all the thinking to you. But let's jump into some. I got a couple local guys for you, and then we got a national story. So let's start with the NBA guard Marcus Smart, grade 1 calf strain. If you watch the video in super slow-mo, it was kind of a little scary. You see this little pop happen on the side of his calf. So a lot of people are like, oh, when you see that pop, everyone thinks ruptured Achilles, but it kind of happened on the side. So I want to hear what your thoughts are on it. The Celtics have said 1 to 2 weeks. What do you think?
So I think it goes kind of hand in hand what we were discussing last week with some of the previous Celtics that have been injured, and saying like, oh, it's okay. Kyrie Irving just has needs a little bit of maintenance in his knee. He'll be fine after the All-Star break, and then he never plays again. I think Kemba Walker, same thing. And then we heard the same thing with Kevin Garnett and Shaquille O'Neal too, with his foot that he was dealing with when he was here. So I am a little skeptical that 1 to 2 weeks seems a little quick to answer. I think a lot of Celtics fans watching that game maybe had a little bit of holding their breath when they saw that injury, because you're always nervous that it is the Achilles tendon that someone's going to have to miss a prolonged period of time. You can get a lot of that like popping. You'll see that a lot with a lot of muscle injuries, muscle strains, and it's essentially like just like the muscle fibers tearing will give it that look like it's popping. So it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's an Achilles tendon rupture. Just grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 muscle strain sometimes can do that. So sometimes on slow-mo, you'll see hamstring, quad, and then obviously the calf. We remember the calf for Kevin Durant when he was in the finals with the Golden State Warriors. We saw that on replay. It was pretty easy to see. He got that pop, and then he did obviously tear his Achilles tendon coming back from that calf injury he was dealing with. So definitely had to hold your breath when you saw it. But so far the news is good. When Marcus Smart did go down with the injury, he grabbed up kind of higher. Normally, if someone feels like they did something to their Achilles tendon, they grab a little bit lower on their leg. So all good signs. 1 to 2 weeks does seem like a little bit quick to me. Again, these basketball players are jumping, they're landing, they're running. So very, very a lot of work that the calves have to do. The gastrocsoleus muscles, those are the muscles that make up your calf musculature. So a lot of work gets done, obviously, when they're playing basketball. Generally speaking, like a low grade 1 muscle strain or muscle tear to the calf musculature will take about, anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes people feel better after 2 weeks. Sometimes people need a little bit longer. So you don't really know. I'd be surprised if he comes back in a week. I'd be kind of surprised by that. I think they're going to probably give him a little bit more time. There's a lot of back-to-back games and a lot of work. And as we saw with Kevin Durant, if you come back too soon with this, you do leave yourself at risk for a more serious muscle strain or the dreaded Achilles tendon rupture. So I would expect him back within like 4 weeks. That's what I'm going to say, which might be like Celtics 1 week equals real life person 4 weeks. So we'll have to wait and see if we get more information. But I would probably say like 4 weeks is probably a safe bet. You'll see him, probably around that time coming back and starting to get involved again regularly. If he does come back in a week or two, I don't expect him to play every game. I think that the nights that they have back-to-backs, you might see him sitting one of those games here and there, and depending on how he's feeling, he might have to sit. So even if he does come back for a week or 2 weeks, he might not be 100% go. He might still be dealing with some restrictions that they put on him until they know that he's 100% and he's not having any issues with that calf anymore.
Yeah, and he's the guy that they're going to want down the stretch and in the playoffs. I mean, he brings that grit to the team. I mean, he's got 100% hustle all the time. Like, he's a guy that you want to go to war with on your side. There was a time when I think people didn't love seeing Marcus Smart out there chucking up threes, but all the other intangibles that he brings to the court, and now he can actually shoot better than when he first came into the league. I think we have a lot of Celtics fans that love Marcus Smart and are glad he's still here, so they're going to want him at 100%. So I'd say I hope they keep him out a little longer, and don't bring him back too quick, because they're going to want him down the stretch. Speaking of grit and a gritty guy who plays like that, it was announced this morning that second baseman Dustin Pedroia has announced his retirement. The Boston Dirt Dog, Laser Show. He had a lot of nicknames. The undersized second baseman came into the league, won Rookie of the Year. He won an MVP award, 3 World Series. Back in 2019, he had his 4th knee surgery. It was a knee joint preservation surgery in hopes that he would be able to come back. In the past 2 seasons, he only played 4 games, and it just sounds like all those surgeries and all the efforts that he made to try to come back just weren't enough to get that knee healthy. What are your thoughts on Dustin Pedroia's knee? What was he trying to do to that knee, and what was the knee not allowing him to do to get him to be able to come back and play?
Yeah. So during his career, he did have a couple of different arthroscopic. Hello, Monday morning.
Nice.
He did have a few arthroscopic surgeries for meniscus tears. Usually, when they're going in arthroscopically, the surgeons are, taking some of the meniscus out, maybe cutting around the tear. They'll try to repair it in certain situations, but the repairing versus the meniscectomy is a little bit different in the rehab. Now you see more times than not they're trying to repair the athlete's meniscus, because that means that they're going to have better long-term health in their knee, in their joint. Back in the early 2000s, when Dustin Pedroia was getting going with his career, it was a lot more meniscectomies where they would kind of cut around that tear or cut the tear out and clean up the joint a little bit. But when they do that, they leave the joint more predisposed to arthritis, because they get rid of the meniscus. So the meniscus, you have each knee has meniscus, or menisci, if you want to do plural. You have one on the lateral side, one on the medial side. The big thing for the meniscus is to help prevent a lot of bony wearing on the femur bone and the tibia bone. So as we're walking those weight-bearing structures, the meniscus is there to kind of help with that a little bit, become a little bit of a shock absorber, and help with that. So as guys go through their career, they can have what's called an Oates procedure or a microfracture procedure. So other athletes that have had those types of procedures, Greg Oden, the guy that was drafted by the Portland Trail Blazers, #1, he had that procedure. We know how his career went. Kevin Garnett, another Kevin Garnett conversation. We were just talking about him. He actually had that procedure done when he was dealing with his knee pain, and the Celtics were kind of saying that he'll be fine, just needs more rest time, and he never actually ended up playing for the Celtics again after that procedure. So what they try to do for those, the microfracture procedures, is drill small little holes on top of the weight-bearing surface of your tibia bone, your shin bone, get that to bleed a little bit. And the thought is with that bleeding that you can actually get a little bit of that cartilage to regrow, and kind of line the joint with that cartilage to protect the joint from going into further wear and tear. That's the simplest way to describe that surgery. Unfortunately, with athletes and athletics, they really haven't found this to be a very effective way at getting people back into playing. Most of the guys we just listed, obviously we know how their careers went. And one of the things that we talked about a couple of years ago when it came out that Dustin Pedroia was going to have this surgery is I kind of remember saying, I don't think this is going to go well for him. I think his best days are behind him, and he'll never be able to, participate the same way that he was playing before. Especially with baseball, it's kind of a grueling season. They play pretty much every day for half the year. So with that type of surgery, maybe you feel good on a Monday, but then you might have to sit out, games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then play on Saturday. So obviously doesn't make sense for, what they're looking for him to do. So sad, but I think we kind of saw this kind of going down this line. He did try. He tried for like 2 years, which give him credit for that, or 3 years actually, really. So give him credit for that, but it was really never gonna work out for him based on the sport, the way he plays it, and the procedure that he had done. Just couldn't save that joint. We really don't have anything on the market right now that I know of that can really help regrow that cartilage and kind of restore that joint function. The only thing that we have obviously is a joint replacement, but once people get joint replacements, unless you're Bo Jackson, you're not going to play baseball again at a high level. So tough luck for him, kind of stinks, but he did give it a good 3-year try. And unfortunately that surgery is very, very poor outcomes, especially in the athletic population with those athletes.
Yeah, it is disappointing, especially knowing, how hard he worked trying to come back. I mean, and I think most Red Sox fans around here will say, he gave us a lot of great memories, and we were all rooting for him and hoping that he could come back and play. But there's also some people that when they heard he retired today, probably thought he had already retired years ago. We just haven't seen him out there in so long. Yeah. But we know the hard work he was putting in off the field, and it's I'm glad that he was able to win a few World Series and Rookie of the Year, MVP, and have some accolades under his belt, because he overcame a lot of adversity, being an undersized player, and I know he was beloved by a lot of Red Sox fans. Moving on, so over the weekend there was a huge announcement that there was a big trade going down in the NFL, and that was Matt Stafford was traded for Jared Goff. So the Rams sent Jared Goff over to Detroit for Matt Stafford, as well as a bunch of first-round picks. But we're talking about Matt Stafford here, and Matt Stafford has a history of back issues. I know we had spoken prior to this, and you were talking about Tony Romo, who had to retire because of back issues. Matt Stafford has had back surgeries. He's 32 years old. It kind of seems like the Rams might have sent Goff over in somewhat of like a salary dump, because Jared Goff has a huge contract, but I think they're also hoping that this is an upgrade at quarterback and maybe that they can compete, but they have to compete in the right now because, Stafford's a little older and he's got these issues. So what are your concerns with Matt Stafford and his back, and what do you see happening with these guys?
Yeah, so a lot of times you can get, and I think this is what Tony Romo dealt with before he retired, is you can get like what's called like a spondylolisthesis. There's different grades of them. We don't have to go into all the details, but basically it's like a fracture in your back, right? The structure that you fracture is called your pars ventricularis. So if you think about it, it's like kind of where like one vertebrae kind of connects with the other vertebrae. It's kind of a little bridge there. It's kind of on the side of the spine, but obviously it can be very painful, and you can obviously have some pretty serious things if you try to play with that and you're trying not to rehab it, including like muscle weakness, nerve problems, and like long-term health problems. So it's not something that you can take a pain injection and gut up for, because you can just kind of cause a lot of issues with that, as you can imagine, like just fracturing your spine. So the problem with this is like once you get it once, the bone does heal and it does get stronger, but you can be more predisposed to getting more of them, especially as you get a little bit older. Remember that in the NFL, they're getting a lot of pain injections. They might be taking a lot of medication for the pain that they're under. So sometimes there is kind of a limited amount of healing that can be done, or maybe their bone structure or their tendons are a little bit weaker, more predisposed to injury. So this is what Tony Romo had done. He tried to rehab it and never really could get over it. He had a couple of back injuries after that. He did that. So there always is a chance that Matt Stafford comes back and he's fine and he has no issues with it. But there's more of a chance that, all it takes is one good hit, on his blind side to his back or his side, or maybe he lands the wrong way and he has another fracture like this, and it could spell the end of his career, and it could cut his career short, certainly, or shorter than what we think it would be. So definitely a little bit of risk in here for the Rams, taking a player who's in his 30s, He has a history of this injury. This is something that could kind of get worse again, or he could re-injure or aggravate if he has another hit that way. So they're definitely going to need to do a good job making sure that he's protected and making sure that they protect him and not allowing him to get needless hits. Because one wrong hit, one wrong fall could spell doom for him in his career, and obviously for the Rams too, who just traded for him. So something to keep an eye on. And like I said, he isn't. It's not like he's 25 or 26. He's now in his 30s. So like many of us listening, we're all in our 30s on here. I can tell you that the body doesn't heal like it used to when I was in my 20s. That's for sure. So just something to keep in mind. Something that I kind of thought of that we were talking about, that Matt Stafford trade, and something to keep in the back of our minds about. How he looks when he's out there, but everything could kind of change in a moment's notice. So,
yeah. And I mean, it seems like the Rams, they don't really value first round draft picks all that much. I mean, they gave up this year's first round draft pick for Jalen Ramsey, as well as other draft picks. And then next year and the year after that's first round draft picks, for Stafford. So like, I think they're in like that win now mode where they really think that this is an upgrade. I don't really think it's that big of an upgrade, but maybe it's just that Stafford hasn't been surrounded by a ton of talent as of recent. So maybe they see this as a little salary relief on top of a little upgrade at quarterback, and they're trying to win now because this isn't really setting them up well for the future, at least in my eyes. I mean, I think first round draft picks are important, but it seems like they think, getting some cap relief and getting an upgrade at quarterback is more important to them now.
Don't forget, Nick, the Lions are such a terrible organization that they forced the best running back in my eyes to retire early when he had records to get to, and he had a lot left to give. They forced Barry Sanders was my favorite athlete growing up, or one of my favorite athletes growing up, and the terribleness of the Detroit Lions organization forced him to retire. He said, "I'd rather retire than play for this organization one more day." So
don't forget Calvin Johnson, Megatron.
Oh yeah,
same thing.
Calvin Johnson, yeah, Megatron. He's like, I'm not going to do this. What am I doing this for?
They both retired at 30 years old, and we know that they still had a lot left in the tank. So yeah, the Detroit Lions will do that to you. So I'm actually happy. I'm happy for Matt Stafford to get out to LA and see if he can have a couple good years in the twilight of his career, and see if he can actually win with a franchise. I mean, he's got a great coach going to, and he's got some talent around him. We'll see. Only time will tell. I actually, I don't know what's going on with Jared Goff and what happened with him and the coach. He was another number 1 overall pick, same as Stafford, but it doesn't seem like they might have lost a little bit of faith in him, even though they gave him quite the contract last year. But now it seems like they regret that, and that's why they dumped him. But we'll have to wait and see how that turns out for both those teams. So we know that we got the big game coming up this next weekend. So Dr. Mark and I decided that this Friday we're going to do a big game preview. Hopefully we have all the updated injury delegations for the players that are going into the game. I know right now it's early, but I've heard rumblings about both Antonio Brown and Sammy Watkins, 2 wide receivers on either team, that they're both questionable. Antonio Brown probably being the bigger of the two. But Sammy Watkins has been a big part of that Kansas City offense as well. He's really been like that third guy after Kelsey and Hill. So it's it'll be interesting to see. I think it's gonna be a great game. But Dr. Mark is going to join me again on Friday. So if you guys have any questions from now till then, make sure you put them down in the comments, or you can join us live on Friday for the big game preview, where we'll be talking about anybody who could potentially be missing the game or could be hindered somewhat in that game by their injury designation. So Mark, once again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Everybody out there, thank you for joining us. Remember, if you have any questions, you got to put them down below. And everybody have a happy, healthy, safe week. Peace.
Peace, everybody.